Question 20 wants to know what the central idea of the passage is. So that's the main point question. Well, we know what the main point is. The whole passage is building, 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 building until we get to here's what you guys need to go out and do if you want to restore natural diversity on land. So let's try to sum this up. Which answer choice sums this up? A says the rehabilitation of land damaged by agricultural overproduction can be accelerated by means of a two-pronged strategy. Yeah, very good. They try to hide it here with a two-pronged strategy, but you know what the two prongs are, right? Below ground and above ground. They mention it over here. Now, both kinds of diversity. So you want to sow microorganisms, and you also want to sow the native plant species. So good. A is the correct answer choice. B says restoring plant diversity to overused farmland requires many years. And consider, yeah, sure, it's true, but it's not the main point. How do you do it, right? Like, you're just saying it takes a long time and considerable effort, but you don't say a word about how to go about doing it. C says the damaging effects of long-term agricultural overproduction argue for the modification of current agriculture. Oh, we need to change how we plant corn, right? And come on. Nothing in the passage is talking about this. Soil on farmland damaged by overproduction gradually replenish, restore itself over if untouched. Yeah, that's true, but it's not fast enough. The whole point is to accelerate. Like, this is what's generally believed to be true according to the first paragraph, but we want it to be faster. E says agricultural overproduction tends to encourage the proliferation of disease organisms in soil as well as. Yeah, again, true, but not this is just stating part of the issue. We're trying to overcome this. Question 21 wants us to describe the organization of the passage. This is the perfect question for our low resolution. We have already got the organization. So we started by stating a problem, and then we talk about a study that could address this problem. Then we talk about the study, details about the study, more details about the study. Finally, conclusions researchers are drawing. Finally, suggestions of what we can actually do. So the answer choice may not match exactly what we just said, but it's a good starting place. Okay, the answer choice may be more complete. It may be less complete. Okay, so you don't want to look for an exact matching. Plus, like the words they use, you're not going to be able to anticipate that. So it's a good starting place though. So we got a study described. Yeah, that's good. Results of study are scrutinized. The results are judged to be inconclusive or promising? No. So there's an issue here. There's an issue here. We didn't really scrutinize the results. The results are just what they are. We're just told the results, and the scientists just accept the results, and from it, they draw a conclusion. So it's not inconclusive. Promising is fine. Sure, yeah, promising is right. But yeah, okay, A is no good. Hypothesis presented, what? Evidence both supporting, undermining, what? And modification is, no, this is you're in a wrong passage, B. I'm sure you can find a home in some other science passage, but fortunately not this one. A study is evaluated. Plan of action is based on the study suggests. This is all towards the end already, right? The evaluation happens here, the conclusion, and then the plan of action is here. So you just forgot the rest of the passage. Conclusions are drawn concerning likely effectiveness, but we don't talk about the likely effectiveness of the plan. So C is no good. Goal stated, studies are discussed. Goal state is good. We want to accelerate, Studies are discussed that argue for modifying the goal's objectives. What? These studies aren't saying, instead of aiming for acceleration, you should aim for deceleration, right? What are you talking about? These started out pretty good, but this modifying the objective is not good. Methodology described to achieve the revised goal. Yeah, there's no revised goal, so no good. So it must be E then. Problems presented, that's the first paragraph. A study addressing the problem described, that's the second and third paragraphs. Course of action based on it is given. Yes, that's the last statement. Very good. He's right. Question 22 says the passage offers which one of the following is an explanation for why native plant varieties grew better when sown on land that had been taken out of production for 20 years and then when sown on plots enriched with soil from that land. So it's saying why, even though this did fine, it still didn't do as well, but still not as well as those growing naturally on nearby land. Okay, that's the 20 years out of production. Well, we know why. The researchers concluded why for us. It's because there was too much aggressive disease organisms in the soil and not enough beneficial. So you can say it that way, like this stuff had too much aggressive, or you can say it the other way, that the resting land, the land that's been resting for 20 years, had more of the beneficial, less of the disease organism. So yeah, let's just see which one. By the way, this is a passage offer, so it's probably going to be explicitly stated, although it could lie on the spectrum, right? But probably closer to send. Land that has been farmed for many years lacks certain key nutrients. What? Okay, I mean, true, but, that's not this, right? We're talking about the aggressive disease versus beneficial organisms. Okay, that's the difference. Land that's been farmed for many years is usually overrun with harmful and aggressive. Yeah, that's it. That's just stated. Right, land that's been farmed for many years has usually been subject. Again, true, but that's just not the reason. It's like A and C are both true, but it's not why. This is stated why is here. The soil that was taken from land that had been out of production was lacking in fungi and other benefit. No, this is totally the opposite. The soil that was taken from land that had been out of production for 20 years was robust, not lacking in fungi and other, right? So the soil that's been taken from land out of production contained harmful. No. This is flipped. It's lacked the harmful ones. Question 23 says, based on the passage, which one of the following is most likely to be true of any soil used to replace topsoil in the process mentioned in the first paragraph? Oh, okay. So they send us back to the first paragraph here. And they said, hey, remember when we said that strategy that wasn't really going to work, where you just take away the topsoil and then we replace it with new topsoil? Yeah, let's return to that. Okay, let's consider that. What did I say that was true? Or rather, what can you infer is true of the new soil? Okay, so I say infer because it says most likely. So I'm thinking it's definitely on a spectrum, explicitly stated, strongly implied. I'm guessing it's on this end of the spectrum. Although if you just straight up say it, that's fine too. All right, so let's take a look. Quickest way to restore heavily. Here's the best way to do it. The second problem has been heavily fertilized. So the quickest way to do it, to restore heavily fertilized, is just to remove and replace topsoil. But it's impractical. Okay, so what's implied? Thistles cannot grow on top. Is that true? I don't think so. Why not? If it's good soil, I'd imagine, thistles can grow on it as well. It does not contain sufficient amounts of fungi. I don't know if it contains fungi. That was mentioned way down there, right, in the third paragraph. It contains very few seeds of native grass and herbs. I'm not sure about that either. Like, where are you getting this topsoil from? What does it contain? I'm not really sure. It does not contain large amounts of fertilizer. Well, yeah, this is probably true. I mean, imagine if it did contain large amounts of fertilizer, then what the hell are you doing? Like, why bother replacing? The whole point was this old soil had tons of fertilizer, was heavily fertilized. So if you're going to replace that, I presume the new soil isn't exactly the same. Otherwise, it seems totally pointless to replace and remove. So that's why D is supported by the information in the passage, right? That it doesn't contain large amounts of fertilizer. And he says it was never used for growing corn. I don't know if it was, right? Maybe it was. Maybe it was used lightly. We only grew one season of corn on it. Question 24 says the author's reference to the belief that damaged ecological systems restore themselves very gradually over time. That's lines 16 to 17. That's over here. It's right before we got to this study. Just look at the relationship here. This is a function, purpose, in context question. Right? Function or purpose in context. You got to look at it in context. It's in relation to this statement, that this statement is here. Why are we told that in nature it happens very slowly? It's to tell us why the Netherlands people are doing this study after all. Because, imagine if it happened very quickly in nature. Well then, yeah, just hang out, drink lemonade, smoke some weed. Thistles, I mean. Right? Just watch nature do its job. Right? No, it's because it's very slow. That's why we're doing this. Okay, so is it to introduce a long-held belief that the study is attempting to discredit? No, they're not saying, oh, this is wrong and actually happens fast. Is it a slight justification generally used by people favoring intense agricultural? What? I don't even know what this is talking about. Like, what justification do people who favor intense agricultural production usually? I would guess it's something like there are like 7 billion people in the world. We need to feed people. That's probably the justification they would cite to favor intense agriculture, right? What are you talking about? It suggests that the consequences of agricultural overproduction are not as dire as people generally believe. I mean, okay, yeah, this is exactly the kind of answer choice where it's so important to remember that these function purpose kind of questions is always in context. If you lift it out of context, yeah, I can see a separate a different paragraph using this very same line to support answer choice C. Okay, the author's like, guys, chill out. It's not a big deal, right? Nature has a way of recovering herself, right? The consequences are not as dire as people generally believe. See, look, damaged ecological system will restore themselves very gradually over time. So just chill. Okay, is that really what our author's trying to tell us? Just relax. And that's why, no, absolutely not. The author is telling us this to tell us why the Netherlands people are conducting their study, because they're like, it's too slow. We want to accelerate the whole thing. Okay, so that's why C is not right. D says, present the most common perception of why agricultural production is problematic. What? Do you know why agricultural overproduction is problematic? I'm not sure I know. Maybe it's because you're just using up the land too quickly and the next generation will run out of like arable land. Maybe that's a problem? But this has nothing to do with this, right? E says, describe the circumstances surrounding the motivating the study. That's right. That's what we've been saying ever since we started looking at the question stem. It's to tell us why the people in Netherlands are doing the study in the first place. Question 25 has a long question stem, so let's read it carefully, make sure we understand what it's saying. It says, in which one of the following circumstances would it be least advantageous to use the methods researched in the Netherlands study in order to restore to its natural state a field that has been in constant agricultural use? Man, this is such a terribly worded question. So we're talking about a field that's been overproduced. And the Netherlands study seemed to offer a solution. You know, what we can do, a two-pronged strategy. Sow a mixture of natural herbs and plants on top, and then sow some beneficial microorganisms on bottom. So that's the Netherlands study. This question is saying, okay, in four of these answer choices, that might work. But in one of them, it's least advantageous to do it. Okay, let's see. Fields' natural nutrients have been depleted through overproduction. That sounds like the problem. You know, I think this will work because this was our original problem. Nutrients depleted. Fields' topsoil can easily be removed and replaced. Well, that's it. This has got to be it. You know, this is like the passage concedes the quickest way to do it is just to replace the topsoil. You know, the reason why we can't do it is because hundreds of thousands of acres in this instance. But here, if you can easily do it, why don't you just do that? Field has been heavily fertilized so that's the second problem, so good. I think this Netherlands study method will work. Field has the potential to support commercial grass plants such as rye. Okay, I mean, I don't see why that, the potential of the field for agricultural use doesn't preclude this strategy from working on it. It's, in fact, just kind of irrelevant. E says the field is adjacent to other fields where corn is growing and will continue growing. Again, irrelevant. You know, like these answer choices are just like, my dog likes to take a stroll in this field. Okay, that does not prevent the methods that the Netherlands study figured out from working on it. But if you can easily remove and replace the topsoil, well, then you don't need to use this method because it's just quicker to do this. Question 26 says it can be inferred from the passage that if the disease organisms mentioned in 46 to 47, where's that? 46, 47, aggressive disease organisms, okay? If they were eliminated upon land's been constant use, then what would happen? What happened? Okay, so this is strongly implied. They, of course, didn't tell us because it wasn't eliminated. But they're saying, if we eliminated it, what would happen? Well, what was it doing? You know, that's the key to figuring this out. If you figure out what the disease organism was doing, then you can figure out what getting rid of it would do. Presumably the opposite thing. You know, what is it doing? Well, you can just read above and below. Right, so researchers have concluded that this is because of the disease organisms. So whatever this is, and it's because of the disease organisms, if you got rid of the disease organisms, you can expect this to either flip the other way or at least reduce in effect. Okay, so what is this? This is a referential phrase. It refers to the entirety of the previous sentence. Seeds sown on these enriched plots, that is to say these enriched with the soil, right? The enriched plots, they fared better than seeds sown on the unenriched plots, but still not as well as those growing naturally on nearby land. That is to say, the ones that have been out of production for 20 years. You guys did fine, but still you did not do as well as the 20 years. Why? Why didn't you do as well? Why are you still kind of sickly and small and weak, and these are like robust and strong? It's because of these disease organisms. Okay, so if I got rid of disease organisms, what would I expect? I would expect you guys to do better. Okay, the native seeds, plant species, the mix of grasses and herbs would just do better. Okay, and that is what answer choice C says. The chance of survival of a beneficial native plant would increase. Good. D, I think, is kind of close, but, it says all types, and that's not good. If it says some types of beneficial microbes or increase, you get the sense that these disease organisms kind of also fight for survival against the beneficial mycorrhiza, right? It's like, like a zero-sum game. The more of the aggressive disease ones, the less of the beneficial ones, right? So you'd expect, like, if you have less of the disease ones, you might have more of the beneficial ones. So that's, I think, what they're trying to go for answer choice D. But then D says it too strongly. All types? I don't know all types. If you said some types, then maybe. Okay. And E says populations of other types of disease would increase. Why? I don't think so. If you eliminate these aggressive disease organisms, what, other disease organisms would just come and take its place? Nothing in here suggests that, right? It cannot be inferred. Unwanted plant species like thistle will be unable to survive. Okay, so thistle is something we already stopped talking about in the second paragraph. They both pushed out thistle. In this paragraph, we're talking about how well the mixture of native grasses and herbs fared. Okay, so it's not about thistle anymore. And population symbiotic mycorrhiza would initially decline. Again, this is kind of like D in that it's talking about the symbiotic, the good microorganisms. I think the good microorganisms would increase, okay, not decrease. So this is also not supported. Question 27 is an analogy question. We're asked to find a situation, a process that is analogous to the process described in the last paragraph by which we pushed thistles out. So how do we push thistles out according to the last paragraph? Well, thistles was pushed out in the second paragraph, and it was pushed out because the beneficial mix of native grasses and herbs, forced them out, pushed them out. There's only so much land. If these things are growing strong, there's no space for thistles. But what does this paragraph to do with that? Well, this paragraph tells you about the microorganisms that aid these beneficial grasses and herbs. Okay, so let's see. A newspaper works to prevent party A from winning a majority. Okay, we could work with this. A newspaper, maybe it's the researchers, works to prevent thistle from spreading, right, gaining a majority, from dominating by publishing editorials. What would editorials be? Encouraging that party A's supporters switch their allegiance and vote for candidates from a rival party. I'm not really sure what this means. What are the things that support thistle? I don't know what the things are that support thistle. And then whatever these things are that support thistle, you have to do something to encourage that thing that used to support thistle to switch over, to then switch to support the beneficial ones, the beneficial plants and grasses and herbs. I don't think you can say it's the aggressive disease organism. I doubt they support thistle. I mean, what they're doing is they're harming the native grasses and herbs. Okay, so it's not like they're supporting. Yeah, so A doesn't seem to work very well. Let's take a look at B. Again, in newspaper, so we have the researchers. They're working to prevent thistle from dominating. Okay, good. By publishing editorials again, defending candidates from a rival party. Oh, so these candidates from a rival party would be the native grasses and herbs. And we're publishing editorials to defend the native grass and herbs from attack by certain broadcast journalists. So what is attacking our native grasses and herbs? The aggressive disease microorganisms. They're the ones that are attacking our good plants. So these researchers, what did they do? They introduced beneficial mycorrhiza to help defend the good plants. That's what they did when they scattered the soil onto these plots. That is akin to publishing editorials because the soil contains good microorganisms. That's akin to publishing editorials which defend our good plants from attack by the bad microorganisms. Okay, so this is actually really, really, B matches really well. Again, newspaper is the researchers, party A, that's the thistle, the weeds, from dominating by scattering the soil which contains the good microorganisms which defend our good plants, our native mix of grasses and herbs, from attack by the bad microorganisms. B's really good. C says a newspaper works to prevent party A from winning. So this is the same thing by publishing editorials intended to discourage supporters of A. Again with this, supporters of A, just like in answer choice A, where you have supporters of this party, right? I'm not sure what supports the thistle. Okay, you're not like, here it's like telling the thing that supports the thistle, which I don't think you can say it's the disease organisms. I'm not sure the disease organisms support the thistle. I think that maybe they just attack everything, right? For sure they're attacking our native mix of grasses and herbs. Right? Do you see? So like here, A is saying, oh, I'm going to change your nature. So instead of supporting thistle, you support something else. Here it's saying, I'm going to change your nature. So instead of supporting thistle, you just stay home and do nothing. I mean, it just doesn't parallel. D says a newspaper works to prevent Party A from winning. So the same thing by publishing editorials, attacking certain public figures who support candidates from A. So you're doing something here to attack, again, the supporters, right? Something that supports candidate. Same issue with C and A. I just don't know what's supporting thistle. And E starts out the same. It says publishing editorials intended to create antagonism between thistle and our beneficial grasses and herbs. Okay, that maps onto nothing. So E is also not right.